5-ish. We're live. Ethan's done hacking the Pentagon and got his camera working. So here we go. This is a little bit different of a Wednesday night. This is part of our plan to take over the world, and we're going to go ahead and start doing some alpha tests of the games that we're currently creating, and some other projects in different stages. So tonight we're going to make the worldwide premiere of 2 concurrent viewers, which I hope isn't Rich and someone else. And
I'm not even a
oh, there we go. Viewer. He's not ruining it. So, and then we're going to do OpenSIX, and then at the end of it, it won't take very long. We're just going to do a real quick demo dungeon. We're going to use fantasy because that's the genre that I think every person who's ever played a role-playing game understands. There's not a lot of things to quibble about. You can just kind of go about your day. What I will do though is let's talk about your guys' the characters and the concept of the system. So the system, and I got asked this question. It was a little annoying, but it's just it's kind of is what it is. Can every role-playing game do what OpenSIX does? I do not believe that is the case, but we have some play testers, and they're going to let us know at the end of this live. And I promise not to delete the video if they talk a lot of mess about what they think. So the game is I wanted to create a game that makes success matter. And it's not just oh, did you succeed? Okay, cool, you can do a little bit of narration. It's like, no, you are role playing and immersing yourself, or really engrossing yourself in a character's actions. And when you're rolling those dice, the number of successes will matter more than just like, oh, I do an extra point of damage. So how the game works is, if you look at your character sheets, I'm gonna try to try to break myself out of this. Man, I'm just boomering out real bad constantly. I hate the term I'm going to try, and I try to break my sailors of that, and I'm still not breaking myself of it. So I'm looking at the mage's character sheet. So across the top, name, origin, culture. I picked random names. Everyone's a human tonight. I prefer human-centric games. And decadent. So for the mage, decadent is they are sort of that post-urban civilization where they are just openly doing weird stuff. Everyone gets high. It's it's drug use is normalized. It's just that it's they're beginning to fall, right? The societal order is on a downward swing for a decadent culture. Focus is your ability in game at a moment to alter the odds in your favor. Everyone has one, except for I believe the thief actually has 2, right?
Yep.
Yeah, 2. So focus is determined at the start of every session. It wipes itself out, and you roll a d6. And if you get a success, you get the extra focus. Everyone has 1 focus no matter what. And we'll get to how the successes work. Threat functions as your health, your psyche, your sanity. It is everything about your character wrapped up into one package that allows you to maintain your flow and keep going. As your threat lowers, there are consequences when it hits 1. If you're down to 1 point of threat, that's when you lose the ability to use trait tags. You're rolling just straight threat. So you're going to be rolling 1-6, and you're going to need gear and other things, or some people helping you to kind of stay up. When you hit 0, that's when we start making sure we check to see if you're dying and when you're going to die. Because it's possible your body's going to maintain itself a little bit and until someone can get to you. Armor for, I think only 2 characters have it. The thief has light armor, which is leather, which is worth 1 point, and the knight has, I want to say, heavy armor. Am I right on that?
It says scale, so I assume that's heavy.
Yeah, heavy. It should say 3.
Yeah, loadout.
Yeah.
Plus 3 above, yeah.
Okay, so anytime there's incoming damage, you can roll your armor, and you roll that number of d6s, and for every success, you can take away the damage incoming. Or you can burn a use of that armor to completely revoke all damage that's inbound to you, but that reduces, that armor number, and so you go from a 3 to a 2 to a 1 to armor is completely broken. So it's kind of use it wisely. Shields are a little bit the same way. If you're using a shield to defend yourself, it adds a d6 to either fight or athletics, whichever tag matters to you, or whatever you're trying to kind of do to parry or defend yourself. And the shield can also, it basically has 1 use, and it can be burned to negate damage that's inbound. Loadout won't really matter for this one. None of you guys will go. The only ones it'll really matter for is if your threat gets for the night, if your base threat gets below 3, you are now at disadvantage because your armor, you're losing a lot of life and health and the ability to endure, and so it's starting to compress on you. For the thief, it won't matter. The 1 won't really affect you too much. Trait tags. So I put the X's and I bolded the ones that you all have. Humans in OpenSIX everyone gets 4 trait tags. Humans get a 5th trait tag. If you're doing something that trait would apply to, you add a D6 to your threat pool. So if you're, I don't know, the thief and you're trying to, use your tradecraft and you're going to try to open a lock, you're going to add a D6 to that threat pool. Your threat pool, I'm sorry, I forgot that. Your threat pool is also how many dice you roll to do all actions. And it determines how much it really is. It's everything about you. So as your threat reduces, you're becoming less and less capable of doing actions. I think I did cover that, but that's where that is. So everyone starts with 4 dice and you can go up and down based on what's happening. And then some of you might have some tools in your loadout. Like if you have thieves tools, they're going to add a D6 to when you're trying to do appropriate thieving actions. I believe the knight's sword gives a bonus die if you go full parry. If you go to parry with it, you get the extra dice for that. Some weapons have they have their own tags, and we can address those. They're pretty straightforward. Like agile just means it's a small weapon and can be used doubled up. I think the thief actually has double weapons, and then it ranges. Only one of you has a ranged weapon, and it can clear any distance. Talents. Everyone starts with 2 talents, and those I just selected for you what makes sense for those. For the mage, the mage has power, which means they have the ability to use powers. We use that term in OpenSIX is genre neutral. It literally can do any genre, anywhere, anytime, anything. So your powers can be spells, miracles, mutant powers, superpowers, psionics. It doesn't really matter. And there is a list of these power tags in that section of the manuscripts, and it's like, oh, okay, well, here's a channel. Well, I have a channel tag. Well, what does that let me do? Well, here's it, and really, it's not what it lets you do. It's let me help you imagine what this thing can do to give you an idea for examples. But yeah, the mage got 3 powers. You roll the number of actual powers tags that you start with. Mage got lucky and started with 3, and they're bolt, debilitate, and trait. Bolt is you can deal damage at distance. Debilitate is you can hinder someone else, making them. Well, you debilitate them. We'll kind of get into that. It's where the imagination piece. And trait is you can adjust someone else's trait around you or your own traits by rolling this. And then and then the scholar for this is just anytime you go, if you're trying to do ancient lore stuff, relics, things like that, you can add a +1. The knight has the ability to defend his allies at close range, to add bonus dice to the defense rolls. I forgot what else the knight has, but and then the thief has a few things that make sense too. We'll get into those as you guys use them. Vibe, I just made up some words in vibes. I'm still not 100% convinced I like the term vibe, but it was one of our other players who really enjoyed the term vibe, and it kind of fits. It drives my Gen X heart crazy to hear that. It's just like, what's your vibe? So that is it that's it in a nutshell. And we're going to slow walk this because it will make more sense to do a little bit of slow walking. And then I'm going to share, I think, this screen to the dice pool screen. Any questions or anything as we're doing this?
Nothing from me.
Yeah. So wait, how does threat that correlates to all your tags? Is that correct? Or just to your talents, or doing
everything.
Everything.
Right? So
everything.
So
everything adds.
How does it correspond though? So I have a threat +3. Oh, you said I get an extra D6.
You get a threat of 4, so you'd roll 4 dice. If you're trying to you're the mage, right? Mm-hmm. So say you stumble upon I don't know, like an ancient inscription, and you're like, okay, I'm going to decipher this. You'd roll your threat, which is 4, and then you have academic, so you'd add another D6 as a talent, and then you have a trait tag with academics as well, correct?
with a +1. Yeah.
Yeah, so then you'd roll. Then you're rolling 6 dice. And if you had a piece of gear, like say you had like a, I don't know, like some kind of dictionary or a gazetteer that you'd picked up or purchased somewhere, and it adds dice to the pool, you would add that dice to the pool.
Okay.
And my guess is, if I'm reading this right, if he wants to cast a spell, that would be his threat, and because he has Manifest as
Yes.
one of his trait tags, that would give him another die to roll for casting a spell. So he'd be rolling 5 dice, at least initially.
Yeah, initially, and then if you have other stuff, staves, wands, everything you can do to add up will help. Now here's where the system pushes everything onto you guys is when you're rolling the dice. And Rich, this is a little bit different than the last you played. I was doing the math and I kind of pulled back a little bit. So every 6 that you roll is a success. But when you do roll a 6, you throw another die out. So for every success you get, you automatically are going to roll another D6. They basically are exploding as you get successes. You only count 6s, and every success that you get allows you to narrate something. And the best example is say you're squared up, you got 3 dudes against you, you're the knight, you got your shield, you got your sword, there's 3 opponents against you, you rolled 3 successes. How you handle those successes are completely on you. Every adversary and hazard has just like you guys, has a threat value. So like a goblin might be a threat 1. That means they're going to take one success to kill or to subdue, and they also will deal 1 threat of damage to you when they're taking actions on things. Bugbears, ogres, dragons, they get that number gets higher and higher, and so it's not always an auto win. So that's why your number of successes can begin to matter and how you manifest those successes. So if you've got like 2 goblins and say a hobgoblin, you got a goblin at 1, a goblin at 1, and a hobgoblin at 2. You roll 3 successes. Well, you could do. It's really up to you to narrate this. So you could stab one goblin, stab the other goblin, and stab the hobgoblin for 1, 1, and 1. You're going to kill 2 goblins. You're going to deal some damage to the hobgoblin. You could, thrust slash at the hobgoblin for 2 of the successes and drop the hobgoblin immediately, and then turn on one of the other goblins. That's another one. You could drop that down. You could take your shield, bash your shield on one goblin, use a success to push the goblin back up out of your melee range, punch the other goblin across the face with the pommel of your blade or the flat of your blade, rendering him unconscious because you're going to need someone to talk to. That's 2 successes, and your third success can be to come after the hobgoblin in some way, shape, or form. It works that way with magic too. I think that's where Oren fell in love with the system.
Ethan.
Ethan. Sorry, well, yeah, Ethan, you played this. I forgot. Yeah, so and Ethan the same way. If you're using your spells, it's just same thing as last time. The effects that you want, you got to stick to your narration, stick to your power tags and those vibes that you have, and narrate away. One of the things is casting an ice spell. Okay, cool. I got 4 successes. Okay, awesome. Well, I do 1 point of damage to 2 opponents, and I use the last 2 points to hold the last 2 opponents in a frozen place, and I lock them down to the ground so the warriors or whatever can take care of them. It really is 100% imagination on the player's part. There is like nothing to guide you. Does that hopefully it all makes complicated sense?
Yeah.
I'm getting there.
I know you talked about it, but where it says loadout parentheses threat +3, what does that mean again?
That's how much stuff you can carry. It's your initial threat, your base threat, which is always going to be 4, +3. So everyone gets to carry 7 items, and you can kind of adjust that with rucksacks and stuff. But yeah, when you go over that, it's a problem. I think everyone's pretty clear.
It's the encumbrance rule, basically.
I hate encumbrance, but you need something to kind of things out. Now, when you're rolling, if you roll no successes, that's a failure, and there'll be a corresponding reaction from the world. A little bit. It's a little bit like PB. Oh my God! Powered by the Apocalypse.
Powered by the Apocalypse.
Yeah, I couldn't get it out. And if you roll successes and you roll 1s, if you have a number of 1s equal to or greater than the number of successes, that creates a complication. You still succeed, but you're going to succeed with a little bit of a sacrifice. And again, that's all on you. Like you're picking the lock and you get a success. It was a threat 1 lock. Awesome. It's easy, but you also rolled 2 1s on the rest of your dice. Okay, cool. Your lock pit snaps, or, behind you here, as you realize a guard has been watching you the whole time. It's completely up to you to narrate. Just make sure it's appropriate to the, don't imagine 8 guards where they weren't guards or things like that. Or, over danger yourself. But yes, that's how the complications work. If you roll no successes, and you roll a majority of the dice are 1s, then that is a critical failure, and then that is when the world responds with resounding force against you. It should be pretty straightforward to keep in mind.
Okay, and then with vibe, is that just more of like a role-playing kind of cues? Okay.
Yeah, that's all it is. There's in the main manuscript, once we get that out, it'll be there's like, I had vibes for different genres just to help people out. But yeah, it's basically all it is. It's like, what do you do? Oh, I'm a knight. Well, what does that mean? Okay, well, here's some little, emotive tags that might fit your character if you don't have a good imagination. But yeah, it's really all this is. We're gonna do a very, very quick, very simple little scenario. Again, it's fantasy. You 3 you have been dispatched to the tomb of Zelthurs, an old Eton wizard from the ancient days. This is particularly of interest to the knight because this tomb is said to contain an ancient relic that is of interest to a religious order, but more importantly, it's of interest to the noble house you represent, and they want that relic back in their possession. And by back, it means they never actually owned it, but they'd like to have it. And they're going to pretend like it's been in the family for, a millennia. For the thief, we'll assume that you hired the best second story person that you possibly could find, which is, I think it's Rich. You got the thief, right?
Yep, I do.
All right, awesome. So you got a thief, and then because you're going into harm's way, the smartest thing you could possibly do is to bring a trained wizard along with you from the weirding orders.
Especially since we're going into a wizard's tomb.
Yes, yeah, and I'm sure the wizard has things. We're gonna do a long, detailed travel. I'm just kidding. If you saw my personal video today on travel and RPGs, I tell you in a minute and a half of how to perfect them. What we are going to do is we're going to do this. Any questions before we get started from you guys? Like I said, we'll walk through the system. It'll be a little bit of baby stepping, but I think you guys will have it. The system is aimed at narrative role playing, more than mechanical stuff. Don't worry about it. If you feel like you're cheating the system, it's okay. You're supposed to do that with this. To a degree. All right. I'll take Silence is Golden. It is the break of dawn just after the first light of the day is beaming in from the east. Just in front of you, there's a large mound that rises up probably a good 20 to 30 feet. Atop the mound, it is artificial in nature. You can tell it's not perfectly round, but it's also not really rocky. You can tell it was shaped. It was quite obvious this was placed here. At the top of the mound, it's also going to be it's not like it's not passable. The top of the mound was once a stele or an obelisk of some form. Only about half of that still stands. The remainder of it is been broken off by who knows what, ogres, ruffians, lightning strikes, but it is lying across the top of the mound, and you can clearly see that. Just based on preparations. Rich, what is your character's name?
Aiden.
And the maid?
Adan.
Rune.
And the knight?
Ivan.
All right. Aiden, you're pretty familiar with this. The grave robbing is second nature to a lot of your cohorts. You know that there's always a capstone of some kind that sits on the top of the mound and allows a clean descent into the actual chambers itself.
Okay. So climb to the top of the mound and begin looking for the capstone, probably looking at the obelisk because that's the most likely place. But I'll also be looking for like runes or sigils that may be on the stones, and also looking for any tripwires and things like that might be a trap.
Okay, outstanding. Rune and Ivan.
I would like to kind of like a similar thing, maybe looking around, kind of surveying the scene around us, maybe seeing if there's any approaching threats or maybe like some sort of mystical force lingering around I should be looking out for.
So, quick question, Rune. Do you know anything about this wizard since you're a wizard and he was a wizard? Is there any lore that you may know about Zelthoris that may give us insight on anything?
Let me reach in the old memory banks and I don't.
We'll assume that there was pre-academics done. So like all sorcerers of his time, he was a renowned and much feared necromancer.
Yes, this is a feared necromancer from back in the day. Don't want to deal with those guys.
Well, don't want to deal with the skeletons and zombies we're likely to find inside. So, hey, Ivan, be prepared for some quick dispatching of the thin ones.
No problem. I'll draw my sword. I'm also like looking for. I'm keeping an eye out for any kind of danger.
Okay. So the entrance is actually readily available. Ish. That obelisk that is toppled, it toppled, cracked the stone. It lies across. There is some room to potentially shimmy through part of it, or it's across just enough of that opening where you've only got a couple of choices. And Ivan with his armor, that's a non-starting point. It's the plate is just that scale is just too bulky to get through that crevice.
And so I'm too old to want to squeeze through there.
And there are sigils and carvings all along both ends of the obelisk.
Okay. So I guess first thing then, before we touch anything, Rune, can you tell us if those sigils mean anything in terms of creating us, giving us problems? Are they magical traps? Are they going to do anything to us that we may need to disarm before we attempt to lift that stone?
Yeah. Rune will brush his bushy eyebrows out of his eyes and squint and try to see what those runes on the obelisk mean.
Let's do academics. It's a threat roll, and it's an academic based roll.
Okay, so that means
6 dice, right?
Sixes?
Yep,
6 dice. Looking for 6s.
Okay.
And 1s.
Can you roll multiple on Google Dice?
Yep, you just add a die.
Oh, okay. Okay, 6 sixes. Alrighty, I got no 6s. I got 1 1.
All right, but you rolled 6 dice, so it's not a critical failure. You are woefully unfamiliar with the language of the Etten people. I'm not sure what you told your companions before starting out with this, but now that you've arrived, you realize that you may be ill prepared for what comes next. There's a little concern now.
He's not willing to admit that. He's like, it's kind of directions. It's probably fine. I'll go head on in there and I'll get these old bones right behind you.
Okay, well, if those runes mean us no harm, I'll check that opening to see if there's any traps that I may need to be aware of. But then while I'm doing that, Rune, can you beef up Ivan so we can lift these stones? Because I do not have a crowbar of any sort.
Oh, make the old man do everything. All right.
That's why we brought you, old man.
It wasn't for your sense of humor.
He'll kind of mumble to himself and going off what you were saying with the decadent kind of thing, I'm imagining he has like a peace pipe that he's gonna pull out, like a Gandalf pipe, and just like start puffing on that, as he tries to cast a spell to beef him up.
You get those long low pan nails.
Yeah, it's very.
What, friends of yours? Oh, this really pisses me off to no end.
Was that from Big Trouble in Little China?
Yeah, Big
That's
Trouble in
the
Little
one.
China, yeah. That's good. You roll your manifest and let us know what you get. Well, don't let us know what you get. So this is the important piece. Roll your manifest. Roll your threat dice plus your one manifest. Your bonus die for your trait tag, and then you're going to use your trait power, right? That tag. All right. However many successes you get that's how many things that you can do. So if it's beefing up his threat by X number, if it's beefing up threat and doing something else, if it's beefing him up and making the stone lighter, there's a lot you can do with this, whatever your imagination is. Aiden, the seal stone is completely busted open. If there was anything here, it's probably long crushed
Cool.
from all the stone and debris falling through it.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, I got 2 successes. So
Okay.
I can,
And remember, you can burn focus if you want, and you can also push yourself, which is you lower your threat willingly, but you add another die every time for every point of threat you reduce. But that doesn't heal. Your focus can come back.
Okay. No, I'll probably, will two successes enough to do something?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So, like I said, you could boost Ivan's threat by 2.
Oh.
So if he's going to try to lift the stone, you can make him stronger. And it really is your narration, or you can make him stronger with 1 and the obelisk lighter by 1.
Oh, okay.
Or make the obelisk lighter by 2 and let him just roll.
Okay.
Because the obelisk is considered it's a threat 3 challenge is what it is. So it needs 3 successes in order to lift it successfully.
Okay. Then. Okay, yeah. I'll the smoke kind of puffs out of his pipe, and he like points his long fingernails, and it trails over him and go around. What's the warrior's name?
Ivan.
Ivan. It goes around Ivan. Ivan starts coughing. Feels stronger. And then I'll have some of the smoke go over on the obelisk too to lower that one by 1 as well.
All right, awesome. So Ivan, if you do lift it, your threat has grown by 1. And this would be if your intention is to lift, it's going to be, you can add athletics into this because it's going to be force up.
Okay. And did dice explode at all, or?
Yeah.
On a 6. Yep. Every 6. Okay. So every success you get to roll again. And if that's a 6, it rolls again and again, just
Okay.
until there's no end.
Right.
And
Okay,
those extra dice. Oh, I'm sorry. Those extra dice, if they're 1s, they don't count against the total pool or anything like that. Only the initial threat roll. Only that initial roll counts for 1s and things like that.
Okay. So if my threat's 4 and he gave me 1, I'm at 5. Plus I have athletics, I'm at 6 dice then?
Yep.
Okay. So I didn't get any success. Then I got 2 1s.
No successes and 2 1s. But you rolled 5 dice, so you're good on that. All right, you are heaving and hoeing, and the thing is just not moving.
Can I go and try and help him?
You sure can.
Good. So that would be threat of 4. Athletics gives me 5 dice to roll. Okay, there is 2 6s, 1 1, and let me roll 2 more dice for those 6s. Okay, so I got 2 6s and 2 1s.
Outstanding. As you kind of the Ivan is clearly trying to do he's doing that military press style where I am picking this thing up, not really moving it, and it's like, oh my god. You kind of come up and you do that the back push, and with runes crack smoke still swirling around the obelisk actually slides fairly easily once the two of you put yourselves into it, and widens that opening enough for all of you, to include the well-armored knight, to head down.
Awesome. So what does the descent look like? Is it a pit that we have to climb down with a rope, or are there
there's a
stairs?
shaft that descends into the earth.
Okay. No stairs in that shaft. It's just
No
plain
stairs in the
smooth.
shaft. Yep, plain smooth.
Okay. Anybody have rope?
Uh,
I think
you're the thief. Why didn't you bring rope?
I'm pretty sure you have rope. Do you have rope?
It's not on my character sheet, but
You should
if
have
I need
rope.
to, okay, because I was going to
Yeah, you
say
should
I'll
have
burn
20 feet
focus
of
if
rope.
I need to.
No, that's
Okay,
weird.
awesome.
You should have rope.
Okay, well then I'll fasten the rope around one of the rocks up above the obelisk if it's got enough places where I can like tie it without it slipping, and then I will begin my. Does anybody have torches?
Rations we can eat.
Yeah. We'll assume you guys also have at least one torch each to
Okay.
deal with this.
All right.
Then I will light a torch and drop it down the shaft so I can see how far down it goes.
You do that.
And-
Down, 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 and then it opens. Guesstimation, it's probably 25 or 30 feet deep. So you got like that 20-foot rope,
Okay.
and you're going to be dangling a little bit, but you know, it's not like
Okay.
it's better than all the way up.
Better than nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Then I will go down first to make sure that there's no traps that we need to be aware of, because I don't trust necromancers with their graves. So I will climb down. I'm assuming that's going to be athletics.
No, it's actually not. You descend naturally. It's, you're sliding down a rope. It's fairly simple.
Okay.
However, where you do need your athletics in this is because it's that last 5 or 10 feet drop. I need athletics to make sure you cat fall without hurting yourself, twisting ankles, things like that.
Okay.
I see Rich staring at me like, you bastard.
Yeah. You might as well ask for a stealth roll.
Man.
Yeah, no successes, but no ones either. So that's
Okay. All right.
what you
So as you come down, you bonk it's not your ankle. You come down and you descend into that crouch, trying to land softly. And you just jam the shit out of your left knee into some debris that's sitting down there, probably from, when the damn thing crushed and fell inward. Reduce your threat pool by your threat base by 1 for that injury.
Now you know how I feel all the time.
I guess that's going to hurt forever.
That's a question.
Okay, then I will pick up the torch and glance around the chamber that I'm in real quickly.
What's it looking like down there?
Dark, dusty, and full of cobwebs.
The chamber itself is a little over 7 to 8 feet high. You got a torch, and the torch is really at close range. So you're kind of looking around. There is the rocky debris littered on the floor. The floor itself, beyond that, looks like it's covered in some kind of mosaic, inlaid with metal. You can see the reflection of gold and silver along that mosaic, and there's lapis lazuli and a few other precious stones that are crushed into the mosaic. Closest to the rear, there's a column on either side that runs up to support, and that goes in from where the shaft is, probably just a few feet. Beyond that, the chamber, just from the echoes alone, the chamber extends slightly to your rear, not very far, you're guessing, based on the dampening of the sounds, but forward, it definitely goes forward much further.
Okay. It's clear so far. You guys can come on down, and I will keep I'll keep looking down the longer corridor.
Okay.
For right now.
Rune is gonna look at Ivan and kind of be like, "See, you didn't hit it right. This is how you really do it." And he's gonna take a puff of his pipe again and try to make his body lighter. Can I do that to try to make some?
What are your power tags?
I have a trait, debilitating bolt. Because I was like straight. I don't know if that's there might be.
Now that's sort of manipulating. There's another tag for what you want to do.
Okay. All right, then I'll just kind of hit the pipe and blow smoke at him and try to climb down the rope.
You do the shimmy down the rope and as slow as humanly possible.
He's like got the pipe hanging out of his lip.
As he gets closer,
what?
As he does get closer, I will assist him with climbing down that or getting down
there
that last portion. So.
Easy enough. Rune, you've descended down to the ground level and you are fine. You don't need to worry about tumbles or falls or anything.
Okay.
And I'll hand the torch to Rune for a moment so that I can assist Ivan as well, just to make sure that he gets down without any injury.
Sir Ivan, are you coming along?
Yeah. I'll take one last look around just to make sure there's nothing like kind of creeping around, and then I'll come on down.
All right, easy enough. And again, you've got assistants down there on the ground floor, so he's a little bit heavier than a mage from a decadent culture, but yes, he's also not athletic. He understands what he's doing. He's fallen from horses plenty of times. Ivan, you have also descended into the depths of the earth. You are perfectly fine, and you can hear when you come down, that metal of your armor. It's that creepy. As it echoes out and before you guys and all around you.
Okay. Well, I guess let's
follow
go.
The smell of death.
It's pervasive. It's everywhere. I can't follow it because it surrounds me.
The necromancers I've known always smell like death.
Rune, gain a focus for that.
Rune, how can you smell anything over the stench? When's the last time you took a bath?
Oh, Ivan, gain focus. Oh man, nice.
Okay, I will lead the procession, and I will be especially looking along the floor and the walls, looking for discoloration in terms of floor plates or tripwires. In the walls, be looking for things like holes that might be arrow slots or spear slots, that sort of stuff. But I'm also going to be keeping an eye out for any sigils or runes, again, that may be magical tripwires rather than physical.
Are you moving forward or are you moving to the rear?
Moving towards the corridor that's the longest.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, outstanding. Are you moving by yourself?
Rune will fall behind. Just kind of keep an eye out for any kind of symbols or maybe markings that might indicate a layout of the building or something like that.
Okay.
And then Ivan will pick up the rear
okay.
Guard.
All right, easy enough. You were moving forward, and So Aiden, really for all of you, you guys all have your eyes all over the place. As you're moving, you realize that it was a multi-columned hall. Two of the columns closest to moving forward, two of the columns on either side, they're in a state of decay and crumble. One has actually fallen, which is added to the debris. They were once gorgeous. They look like from the next set of columns, they were carved to resemble these long shafts, and they have these kind of familiar astrological symbols just carved all the way down them, with essentially in the form of the seasons. Rune, that's fairly obvious for you. Like, no, that's, I understand something of their culture, and this is pretty straightforward. The mosaic is definitely it forms out a larger picture. Just with your minimal torchlight, it's hard to make out the sum of the whole, but you get the idea that it was either worshiping the Lord that's in here, or depicting some sort of scene from their mythology of 1,000 years ago. As you move closer, there are shadows that start to peel back. And as they peel back, you realize that you can see what looks like a set of boots and connected greaves, and then armor, sort of like Ivan wears, with that scale mail skirt that hangs over. And you take a few more cautious steps as you're looking at this, and you realize that there is a figure well larger than a human man sitting on the remains of a decaying and decrepit throne. And there is a massive blade held in the hands, and the head is resting down on it.
And this is not a statue, correct?
It does not look like a statue, no. And it is around the base. You realize that you're looking at skulls that have been placed around the base of the dais where this thing sits.
Can Rune try to discern if this is like maybe some sort of like necromantic spell or like?
Sure, yeah. Roll manifest. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. All right, I got 1 success and 2 failures.
Did you re-roll the 6 as well since it explodes?
I did. It re-rolled into a 1.
Okay, that's
so that
won't count against you. Yeah, but you did but you did get a 1 on that initial 6. So there is a complication to this. So yes, you reach out, you touch the weave, and there's so oddly enough, you don't. There's a tinge of necromancy, but it's not the more predominant magic that is present in here. It's sort of just eating away at the edges of this. What is here is there is a heavy influence of either and you can feel a strong enchantment, but it's almost as if someone took an enchantment and broke it in two.
Well, it seems like somebody's been doing some magic stuff here. There was an enchantment here, but it feels like it's been broken in two. Be careful around these bones.
And when Rune says that, as he finishes that, Rune, you finished what you say, and that is when you feel something reaching back through the manifest, through the weave, when you opened yourself up. And it is something close, and it is something dark.
Danger's approaching. They delve the dwarves' mind too deep, too greedily.
I will begin looking around, but I'll also say, Ivan, is that? Do we know what the relic is that we're coming for? Was it a sword or was it something else?
No, it's a religious symbol of the old Etten Empire.
Okay. I'll begin looking around. Is this at the end of the hallway, or did this open up into like a small chamber?
No, this ends at the end of the hallway. Yeah, like the chamber is, say 7 to 8 feet wide or tall, and about 15 feet wide, and it's this long rectangle that you've traversed.
Okay. I'll begin looking at the walls and the decaying throne to see if I can notice if there's like secret doors or hidden passages, things like that. And I'll use the torch along the seams of the walls and floors as well to see if there's any flicker of air coming from anywhere. But with Rune's thing, I'll definitely ask Ivan to watch the rear, because there was space behind us before we came down this passage. So perhaps there was something there that we should have investigated first.
Go ahead and roll discern.
Okay.
Yeah, roll your threat and use discern if you have it.
For the two of you, have discern.
Nice.
Awesome.
The two of you, what are you guys up to?
How far away are we from this large humanoid?
How far away did you want to stop? That's the fair question, I think.
Oh. Probably 20 feet.
Okay. Fair enough.
1 success, no ones.
Okay. Wait for Ivan and Rune.
Okay, so I'll approach. Well, he said when Rune says there's danger, I'm gonna focus on the large humanoid, and I'm gonna approach it with my sword drawn. And
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I want to. You said something like was kind of like reaching back out at me.
Yeah.
I want to kind of like focus on that and see if I can find the source of where it's coming from.
Okay.
If I can.
Yeah, sure. Roll manifest again and see how well you do this. Ivan, you're stepping up, and that's catching some of that torchlight is a little bit stronger now. The figure on the throne is not dressed. You're a professional warrior. This is your job. The figure on the throne is not dressed like you expect a wizard to dress, or it's just doesn't look like a sorcerer. I mean, you have one in the party, and he's not wearing armor. He doesn't use a weapon. This thing is very much so dressed like some kind of combatant.
I got 3 successes, 1 failure.
Nice.
Oh, okay. Nice. So where are you reaching out where are you reaching out?
Probably.
And what are you doing? Narrate your successes, because there are 3 things that you're going to find. You just give me like area, power, feeling, whatever you're looking for.
Okay. Probably. He's probably like, he doesn't hear anything or see anything jumping out at him, so he probably pulled out his pipe again. He's like Gandalf when he's trying to remember the password. And he's smoking, and he's like looking at the death throne, trying to remember if something in his magic academia would kind of point him to where the danger is going to be here.
Okay.
Yes. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah, fair enough. Ivan has stepped up. As Ivan has stepped up, and you're starting to realize, it's a warrior that you're facing, or hopefully it's a warrior. You're not really overly familiar with the Empire's culture, but you've never seen a wizard use a sword. Just to be fair. Well, not well. They haven't. At the same time, Rune, you begin getting an incredibly powerful resonance of 2 enchantments that are sitting at the throne. In your mind's eye, you perceive the sword that the figure is holding lights up with the eternal fire, and there's a skull that sits just in front of the throne, and it also lights up with the eternal fire, marking them as manifesting magic themselves in some way, shape, or form. The last thing you feel is at the same time that Aiden, you have discovered there is a false door that sits on the wall, continuing the direction that just behind that throne. It's on that wall that would allow you to continue to pass through.
Okay. Now, quick question.
Yeah.
The flames that Rune saw, are they physical?
No, they're just they're magic manifestations.
Yeah. Cool. Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. He eventually sees the true nature of these objects.
Okay. There's a false wall behind this throne, guys, and I'll begin moving to open it.
So does the figure appear to have any sign of life? Like, do I see its chest moving or anything?
No, nothing unnatural, nothing unusual. Other than it's just, for the tomb of a wizard, this is a really out of place thing, in your opinion.
Yeah.
Rune's gonna yell at the rogue and be like, "Keep your sticky fingers to yourself. That sword up there probably has a curse on it." And I'm picking some vibes up here. And Rune will walk up and pick up the skull, though.
You're picking up the skull?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to.
Yeah, no, the skull comes up. It comes up, and that is when you realize that it is you pull it up, and as you pull it, you feel something pull back, and it's almost, and you can hear the metal of a chain, or there is something attaching it to the ground. I'll get back to you. Are you opening that door?
Yes.
All right. It starts to shudder and just begins to slide down. Rune, as the door is sliding down, you look down in your hands and you're looking at that skull, and you're hunched over trying to do it because it's not coming up. It's you're doing the fidget with it, and there is a space about yay big in the top of that skull and about yay wide. So it's maybe a half an inch wide, maybe 2 inches, wide this way, long, whatever it is. I'm not good with measurements. I don't know what that would be on a rectangle. That's it carved in the top of that skull. It's like a slot. And as the door opens, Ivan, you are a knight, but you're still devout to the orders. From beyond, you just feel like someone has grabbed a hold of your spine and run ice along the bottom of your spine. And you can hear, "You bring me supplications." And that is when the head of the figure in front of you lifts, and there are purple flames glowing inside of the eye sockets.
See, I knew it was cursed.
Let's do an initiative. So how initiative works is you guys are going to roll your threat. If you're going to fight with a blade or a spell or use a bow that's shooting, anything you're going to do that makes sense for one of your trait tags, you add that trait tag into your roll. You're looking for successes. Everyone has at least one action, but where the initiative is different is every success you get gives you a number of actions in the round. So you're not tied to just one action in the round. It really is tied to how well you do on your rolls.
Okay. I am assuming that if I were to use my scythe axe or my knife, that's going to be fighting, correct?
Fighting, yep. Unless you plan on throwing it.
In which case it becomes athletics.
Yes.
Okay. So I will be rolling my 3 threat dice. And you know what? I plan on putting some distance between me and using my bow. So 2 1s and 1 6. And I take that back. 3 1s and 1 6.
1 6? Okay.
But the third one was from the exploding die.
Yeah, the complications don't really matter. The only thing that matters in initiative is the successes. So you have 2 actions. Ivan, what'd you roll?
Okay, so do I add my fighting to my, or just roll my force straight? Okay, so I get 5
add your fighting. Yep.
Okay, so 1 success and 1 1.
Okay. That's it. Okay, so you have. So is it? You got a 6? You said.
1 6, yeah, 1 6 and 1 1. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. 2 actions for the round and 4 rune. What'd you get?
3 successes, no
Jesus.
fails.
Wow.
Nice.
All right, 4
I do have a
actions.
plan.
Holy God, man. All right, so ranged is going to trump everything else just because of how fast it is. Actually, you didn't have your bow at the ready though, right?
I did not.
You did not. All right, but the knight had everything at the ready. So knight, by all means, Ivan.
So Rune's holding the skull right now?
Yeah, he's hunched over because the skull is still attached to the floor, and he can only get it up a couple of inches. And he's holding it and he's tugging on it.
But it was one of the skulls on the throne floor.
It was at the foot of the throne. Yeah, like the throne
not
is here.
the
I'm
skull
sitting
of the
here.
figure.
No. It was the skull sitting both, before the throne.
Yeah.
But is the skull that he has, is that the one that's lit up with purple fire?
No.
Yeah. Well, yes. If he had told you guys, yeah, it's that skull and the sword are the two objects that he saw manifest energy.
But the skull on the body that's sitting on the throne has purple
eyes.
flames in the eyes.
Yeah.
Oh, it
Sorry, the
does.
purple flames
Oh,
are from
okay.
the eyes. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I will swing at that one then. So that would be
roll
my
your-
threat of
Yep.
threat of
Go
4
ahead.
plus fighting. Do I add my sword too or not?
Swords used for parrying. If you're gonna parry
Okay.
with that as one of your actions,
Okay.
you don't got to declare
So
any of that.
I got 1 success. I'll re-roll another 1 success and no failures.
Nice. All right. How's this success narrate out?
So I don't know how much power. Well, I mean, I don't know how much damage this thing can take, but my idea is like I'm charging this thing and just trying to run my sword like right through its what I consider its heart would be.
Nice. You
So
do
as Rune's
that.
hunched over, the blade goes over Rune's back and head right to the
Yes.
chest.
You pull back, you throw that blade through, and your blade hits and slides just off to the side. The scale mail that thing is wearing is still fairly intact, and it reduces that damage down to nothing. Let's see. Rune, you're up. What do you got to do?
Rune's eyes glow blue, and he breathes out a cloud of smoke that also turns blue and like crackling with electricity. It grows and like he shoots it at the skeleton.
Oh, nice. Roll it.
Okay. Oh, I should have had it. Alright. We got 1 success, 1 failure. I'm gonna focus it actually. I'm gonna
Okay.
put one more in there. Oh, success! Another success. I'm not even kidding. Let's go, bro. This is how I had a plan. That's so 3 and 1 fail.
All right. What's this look like? You got 3 successes in there. What are you doing with these things?
Oh,
How's your magic manifest?
okay. I'm going. Okay, so the 2 of the successes are going to be in the smoke hitting the skeleton, and I'll give 1 like maybe some trails of electricity. While Ivan's that close with his sword, maybe some go on his blade or something like that, and he has like charges his blade with.
Oh,
lightning.
all right, Ivan. You'll take a +1 to your blade for the next action. And
Nice.
good news is as your blue flame reaches out to this creature, you see it is lurched up, and all of that magical energy is hitting it, and you see some of it is dampened. You can feel that between your connection with it and the weave. You feel some of your magical energy dampened, but not all of it, and you do manage to get through it. You can feel that subtle drain of its unlife force. Well done. Oh man, we just skipped over Rich on accident. Rich, are you gonna you're gonna use one of your actions to get your bow out, I assume?
Yeah.
Okay, and then you're back up, Rich.
Okay.
With bow in hand.
So that's going to be 3. I get 1 for shooting. So I'm going to put an arrow through the back of this thing. Well, okay. I suppose you said it's starting to stand up, correct?
Yeah.
Can I see it above the back of the throne?
Yep. Yeah, you can see the
Okay.
back of the head and everything.
Then I'm going to put it in the back of the thing's head.
All right.
And there's 1 success and 2 successes, 3 successes.
Dude, nice.
3 successes, no ones.
3 successes, no ones. All right.
So as the thing starts to stand up, I take a step back and knock my arrow and aim in on the thing's head, and I let loose with the arrow, so it like hits the back of the thing's head, and I'll use one of the successes, if possible, to bypass the helm, so that it bypasses the armor, and then everything will just go towards damage.
Yeah. Yes. You're drawing quick on the draw, and exactly perfect timing, perfect aim. It's already stood up. It's looking downward at Ivan, and as it does that, you wait for that. You had that perfect moment, and as the head goes forward, and you bury the arrow into the back of where the brain stem would be, if it had a brain. However, the shaft does sink, about 6 to 7 inches deep into that thing, and it just Ivan. It's all like a corpse has just vomited on you. Just the smell is putrid. It is old. It is ancient. It is vile. And it is back to it's back to you, Ivan.
Rune, I think the thing's related to you. and it's still acting.
It is still acting. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to try to do. I'm going to reassess this thing and try to lop at it again.
Don't forget the additional +1 from the electricity that Rune gave you.
Yep.
Do I add that to my dice too then? Okay.
Yep.
So,
I'm
All right,
not
well,
that old.
I got 1-1 and no successes.
No successes.
No.
Do you want to use focus or anything?
Yeah, how do I use the focus?
Just roll an extra d6.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to roll the whole thing over. You can just add a d6 to. You can roll focus anytime. You
All
can
right,
burn as much focus as you want as well.
All right. Well, okay. That was no success. I'll use my last focus then.
All right.
If I can
Damn.
get something here.
You got rich
No.
energy.
Damn.
Damn. You have rich energy. This is insane.
Dang, this is horrible.
Oh my god. Holy god. All right, Rune.
No
no wonder they want that relic.
Much to disbelief, Rune, you are back up.
Okay.
Holy god.
Rune sees this thing is still getting up. Guys, we're supposed to kill him. Get rid of him. And he's gonna point his pipe at him and like blow the ashes at him, and try to, I don't know, cast the spell here. In a panic. Okay, let's see. And that is 1-1 and nothing else.
All right. All right. So this thing is going to, that's a failure. That's a total failure on both of you. It brings that heavy blade up, and the blade is easily the size of a man. Blade comes up and stares at you, Ivan, and lunges directly past you and is ramming the blade towards the wizard.
So can I use my defender talent to shield close allies?
Sure, yeah. Absolutely. As it's sliding through, you bring the shields over to the side. Go ahead and roll the d6 for your actually it's your defense, so it's going to be fighting plus a d6 for the shield.
Okay. And is the kite, is that +1 to defense roll? Is that part of the shield? Okay, so
Yep.
2d6?
Yeah, whatever your threat and your athletics, and then the two.
Oh, I had my threat too. Okay.
Yeah, you rolled everything.
And athletics. Okay.
You got this, man.
All right. I got 1 success and 1-1.
Okay, 1 success and 1-1. All right. Narrate this out. You succeeded in doing the action that you're aiming at, but you also complicated yourself slightly.
Yeah, I think because this thing is so massive, as I'm jamming to push it aside, I think this thing's somewhat desiccated. So I'm thinking it's got the mass of like a massive human, but it's a little bit lighter. So as I push it to the side, I go farther than I want, and I actually throw myself off balance and kind of crash into the wall next to me.
Okay, easy enough. And you do defend that. That sword skitters off. You throw yourself into the wall. A little bit of a stun. However, this thing also rolls a critical failure. It rolled a critical failure, and as it comes down and you push that blade out, the blade swings wide and it spins it, and down it goes, and that neck snaps over one of the pieces of the components of that the column that has fallen, and that has stopped it from moving altogether. The flames go out of the eyes.
Just how I planned.
Whew.
Rune, what was that thing? And why didn't you tell us about it?
I tried. They never listen to the old man. I have all this experience. They don't care.
Oh. All right. It's been a little bit less, about an hour or so. I think we're in an okay spot. I think that's a good example of it. I promised everyone that we wouldn't go too long. So I guess the biggest thing is from not Rich and Scott. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on what you think of the flow and honesty, very, very much honesty. So I'm not sure where I am with this. So yeah,
we're looking for good feedback, so we know how to adjust things if we have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing is, Scott, you're a good GM, so I think that regardless of what system we're running, I'm going to have fun, right? Because and I think it's just you guys are a good group, so I think we could be playing like tiddlywinks and not have fun. But
Yeah.
but you know, I like the I like this more narrative, like you know, I get tired of like the roll the die and I hit. And I like this idea that, you know, it's really encouraging us as the players to add our narration into it. And
I just need you to succeed.
yeah, there's something you know, the focus is good. Yeah, I'm just the system's not super complicated, but I like it's got enough there. I like the vibe, and you know, like when I first saw the character, I started to get you know, I started to get I think I kind of know who this guy is, and the other two characters, I started getting a sense of how we might, you know, be.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I don't have.
I'm trying to gather my thoughts. I think probably the hardest thing for me anytime I'm playing a new system is learning the actual rules. So I feel like it takes me a while to actually get everything going. But I did like when Ivan had a success and a failure, like how you prompted him. You know what I'm saying? That kind of helped me understand what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? Like because you're saying, you know, you did succeed, but you also hindered yourself. How did that happen? I think that kind of like made it all click for me. When you asked him like that, I'm like, okay, because otherwise I'm like, well, I have these successes. I'm like, well, I want to just like succeed. I don't know. But like saying like how do you succeed? How do these two successes look? Or you know, yeah, kind of like that. Could that help me click for
Okay.
And I'm trying to think. Yeah.
Okay. Mind if I ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
Because there were a couple moments in here that stood out for me between the two of you, and that was how you cooperated and helped one another. So, for example, Ethan, when you cast the spell and got all those successes, you could have taken all of them towards damage, but instead you decided to have some of it go to the sword and help Ivan in his next attack. And then Ivan, when the wizard's getting attacked, you saw an opportunity to use a talent, even though it's going to put you at risk, to defend and deflect that. How did those ideas come into your mind, especially for the spell part? Because that there is something that I don't think Scott explained that you could do something like that. But how did that feel for you guys in those moments?
Personally, I mean, just having like the success counter, you know what I'm saying? So like, just when I'm thinking strategically, anytime you're like, you know, knowing that I have like the ability to do more than just damage, I guess, you know what I'm saying? Like, because typically you're doing an action like hit or miss, and then you do roll damage. Like you're kind of locked into it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess having like it just like helps you play more like strategically, like because I'm probably not gonna one shot it. Why would I stack it all? I'll probably just try to help build momentum for the next round.
Nice. Yeah, because it's an unusual move, I think, because it's selfless. You usually don't see that in most role-playing games.
Yeah, no, that's what I was thinking too. It's kind of cool because it was like, you know, usually it's like you know, spells do damage and then they might have effect, but it's all, the effects are all defined, right? It's like this effect paralyzes or it poisons or it like blinds them, but it's rare to see a system where the spell can hurt the enemy and then also help the ally. So I thought that was really cool that you did that, you know, and that made me feel like, oh, this is cool, right? And yeah, two of my vibes are noble and stoic. So I immediately thought this rune guy annoys the crap out of me, but I'm stoic and I'm noble, so I'm gonna protect him, right?
No, and so is that what triggered you leaping to the defense?
Yeah, exactly.
That's
I thought
awesome.
my job. Yeah, I felt like my job is clear. And I got the shield with +1 to defense rolls. I was like, it's clearly guy is like, you know, yeah, his job is to
Nice.
defend people. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's actually really good to hear because this is I think it's a couple of times we've seen it work, and we had one instance where we were actually asked, why would I bother? What was the question? Why would I bother not taking the optimum?
Yeah. Now the funny thing is the player that did that or that said that did take the suboptimal outcome. He still said, you know what? No, this is the fighter's moment. This is where he's supposed to shine. So he did some damage to soften the opponent, kind of like what Rune did some damage to soften the dude up, but then spent the other amount to give it to the fighter guy that was going to do it. And the funny thing here is, similar thing happened where Ivan doing his defensive thing. Now, granted, there's other factors to it. The thing crit failed its roll, but you've got that moment where the fighter's able to push the thing away and it ends the fight. So it's still kind of like the fighter's idiom to do that. So I thought that was kind of interesting that it all worked out for the fighter the way that it should have, in my opinion.
It's good. It was good. Did you guys? We didn't talk about it, but like the game doesn't use attribute scores. I've left that completely up to the player to imagine what you look like and what your build is and how smart you are based on the trait tags, your vibes, and things like that. Any thoughts about that?
I was actually, that kind of like leads into a thought I was just having too, which is I think this system would be just pretty optimal for one shots, like probably the best one shot system you could think of, because you start off with a vibe, so that already kind of gives me like, you know, it's interesting enough that the traits on there were ones that I was already kind of leaning towards anywhere, being like snide and kind of like, oh my god, old man. But like then seeing them there, and then you're like, okay, now I have like, it gives you like immediately stuff to role play with.
Yeah.
Then you also don't have to worry about like attribute scores, like you know your skills. It's like once you learn the system, I feel like it's very plug and play. Like you can really just I am curious. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. For me, like to me, I thought it was fun as a I don't know, like long term, but like particularly because it was a one shot, I was like, hey, my character's just gonna go for it. Like I didn't have this like need to preserve myself. But I didn't even notice the ability scores, because I don't know. To me, like the vibe actually does a better job, I think, of conveying to me as the player what this guy's about versus saying, oh, he's got an 18 strength, oh, he's got a 14 dex or whatever, you know.
No, they're good. Yeah, that was sort of is the point. I realized I don't think we needed the attributes, but that's good. The one shot thing is interesting because it does have an advancement system, and it's tied to like getting more talents, getting more trait tags, adding to your trait tags. Trying to think of what else. Adding power tags, which I'll ask a question about here in a second. But that's kind of, and I don't know either. Like one shots are always a weird one because unless we kind of wanted to sit and run like a long-term campaign, which is on the not long-term campaign, but like do like a micro campaign, that is definitely on the table. If this is a system you guys wanted to revisit, I definitely could see us doing this for a handful of sessions to really flesh out, and we'll see what happens with it and how well it plays out. That's a good note. Okay, that's good to know.
That is interesting, like the leveling up. So like, so I already have academics. Manifest is what I was using for spellcasting. So so can you like get stronger in spellcasting, or you could like when you level up, you can look at things like healing or like.
Yep. Yeah. One of your choices. I think the talents are like 2.5 pages of talents, and like one of them is increase. Add a d6. Add 1 to your like an existing trait tag, for instance. Yeah, and so that's something you could do where and I would think hopefully narratively that's like, oh, your character growing in their power as a spellcaster or whatever.
Okay.
And where this was different for Rich is the game I used to use 5s and 6s were successes, but doing the math like this, and I don't know. This is the conversational point. At 5s and 6s counted successes and only 6s exploding, the math of success skews way high. It's like I want to say it was like 70%. I'm not a mathlete. But if you're rolling like an average of say 5 or 6 dice and you're looking at 5s and 6s as succeeding, I think the math works out to like 60 or 65%. I don't know that matters too much. But I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Would it be beneficial to add the 5s back into the success meter?
I kind of like how it is, like because you get exploding dice anyway. So I guess, I mean, that's the thing. When I was thinking about the system too, I was like, it's very like fair. You know what I mean? Where if you're up against 3 people and they all like you have to start taking people out, otherwise you're gonna be facing just as many threats. I guess I don't know. It seemed very like balanced, is what I was.
I'm
Gonna
tracking.
say.
Okay.
And so I like that because like every chance you have to succeed. I don't know, but I also roll high, so maybe my opinion.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's talk to the knight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I could have used a few of those pies would help out. I mean, I wasn't upset about failing, but I was a little bit like I was feeling like, oh, he's trying to lift the stone up, and then he can't do it, and then the thief comes up and
Yeah,
does it. And I'm like, damn it. So I don't know if there's like a fail forward mechanic, right? Like if if you keep it at 6s, if I could take some sort of a negative to, because for example, like if we can't get the stone up, where's the adventure go, right? So if there's some way to like, if there's some way like, or if I just really I want to be the tough knight, I want to move this, and is there some kind of devil's bargain I make where I can take some penalty or some down the road
So, quick question on that. Would it have changed things if instead of focus giving an additional D6, every time you spent focus, it counted as an auto success?
I'm thinking of that, or a focus counts as a 5 or a 6 instead of just a 6, something like that. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah, if a focus could be like an auto, not maybe an auto 6. I mean, it would a focus would count as like an extra 6.
I like the idea of it being like focus would make 5s count for that round or something like that, or because then you can pay attention. Okay. Like then that other numbers actually matter because then you're like, okay, this roll has like 3 5s. I'm like, I could just focus and like make this happen.
Okay. Like, okay, and you don't get very much focus as you guys saw. So once you burn it,
right.
It's gonna sit. Okay. Notice that's an easy one. Rich, what do you think? I mean, well, you and I talk a lot, but
yeah,
I like that a lot actually. I think focus makes it matter more.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. Do you guys think that do you guys believe this game could do any genre?
I think so. I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun to do like a futuristic kind of game, or even like a modern. But yeah. Yeah,
because I can tell you when you have guns involved and you start rolling those extra successes, you start getting creative with how those things are spent.
Yeah.
It seems to be easier to imagine a gunfire. No, okay. Yeah, I think it can do. And we have coming out, there's like 15 frameworks that are mentioned, and then we're going to expand each one of those into like a zine sort of thing. Because there's like, and they're not just straight, it's not like just cyberpunk. It's, got like an Island of Dr. Moreau style framework, weird stuff like that. The question about powers, and this is kind of, you guys are all great players. So I added power tags, and I think, Ethan, the first time we played, you didn't have power tags. You just sort of manifest magic and you let it work the way your imagination would let it work. Am I wrong on that?
No, you're right. That's correct.
I can't remember because I think I did have I thought I did have some limitations of because very similar things of like
it took energy from you, so it like reduced your threat or something like that.
That's right.
You, depending on how well you did, you reduced your threat, but you were able to do anything you wanted, because there was a time when you were hiding behind a tree and you cast a spell to pick a lock.
You're right, and I did cast like an invisibility. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I think I did. Maybe.
Yeah, you were using the successes to manipulate things. I don't know. I guess are the power tags necessary, because it is limited, so it essentially acts as your spell types that until you can advance and gain another tag. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
It might be a complicated answer, but I think for leveling up, it makes a lot more sense, because then I'm somewhat limited. Like you said, there's going to be actual talent later down that you could have chose that has weight lifting capabilities of yourself. But for one shots, I feel like you could also just take it off and just let people just run with it if you're doing one shot. So maybe that's not the answer you're looking for, but
no, it's fine. Everything's good.
I do like them.
Yeah, I have thoughts, but I want to hear. I'm sorry, I can't remember your name.
It's
All I
Rob.
can think is Sun
Or,
Dragon.
yeah, no, Rob.
Yeah.
So you're talking about the spells having
Yeah, because he has power tags. So when you if you take the talent power as a thing in whatever you're playing, that means you roll your character's manifest. So you're gonna roll like your threat plus your manifest die, and you get one power automatically, and every success you roll on that roll gives you another power tag. So you could have quite a few power tags, or you could start with just one power tag. It's really randomized, kind of like old school D&D. And then you just pick from a list. You don't have to roll which one you have. You can actually be like, no, I want the channel is what I'm going to do. I'm going to channel magic. And what that means is, turn undead or, divine wrath and things like that.
That sounds interesting. I don't think I quite have my head wrapped around it.
Sure.
Because if I'm looking at the Ruins character sheet, he's got like the bolt, the debilitate. Are those? What are you talking about?
Those are his 3 tags. Yeah.
Oh, those are tags. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And I do like that because it gives the player something to sort of like focus through instead of just making it all up whole cloth.
Okay. I agree. I think the tags kind of lend a little bit of focus for people.
I agree. Because having limitations sometimes will make you get creative and what you can do without having to ask the GM every time.
Yeah.
Right.
So
plus in terms of
the
advancement, right?
Yeah. Well, and the thoughts that I have is I think for me it kind of depends on the type of setting that you have. From a fantasy setting where wizards are seeking out knowledge, if they know all the spells, what knowledge are they seeking out? So I think spells in that sort of thing are cool, but if you want magic to be more focused around how that person manifests it into reality, a non-spell book would be better, kind of like a Green Lantern sort of thing, where his power is whatever his imagination allows, his ring manifests it. So I can see it going both ways. However, I as a guy who loves playing Magic users, if I'd played Rune, I think the thing that I would have struggled with is not knowing, do I know cantrips like light? Are there a common set of spells that wizards know beyond your specializations when you start getting into things like bolt that are your more useful stuff, like identify or detect magic, dispel, light, those sorts of things? Are there some common ones that everybody knows, and then you start getting into your specialized ones that you have to learn going forward at that point? Does that make sense?
I agree. And I think there was that is kind of like me getting used to the system, but also there was maybe I don't know. My question is that shield bash move that he used, is that a talent tag as well?
No, that was just him being creative with how it was him using Rob uses his he has a defender talent that allows him to intercede on an ally's behalf at close range. But how it happened and how it looked was completely up to him when he narrated the success. Did you feel that way? I guess that's the fair question, Rob. Is that how you feel that it happened? That you got a little bit of chance to narrate?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I have this talent that I can use, and so then I got to to do it how I want. And in terms of the magic, I think we kind of depend. Like, what was it high magic? Was it because I kind of felt we were more of a gritty setting? You didn't say that, but how I was kind of taking it. I felt a little more gritty and a little less high. Particularly, maybe I was failing a lot, so maybe that was part of it, right?
That's so terrible. Yeah. No, it was supposed to be gritty a little bit. Yeah.
The reason I ask is because I think that the talent tags are actually good for Magic then, because one, it gives you it gives you kind of like limitations because otherwise if it's kind of like Green Lantern, I don't really see any benefit to playing basically anyone who's not a mage, because if you're kind of like unreigned at that point, you can kind of do anything. So why would I be a warrior when I can just summon a dragon or pretty much anything I can think of? And then why would I play? Because then if you can level up too, you can just take a trait tag of fighting, and then you can literally just kick ass in any field. So I think it's good to rein magic in. Okay. I like having them be kind of vague and kind of like trait in making you actually like come up with the magic is good. Yeah, I think it is good to rein it in though, just to balance it out. Like,
Okay.
Was it
Yeah,
somebody on this call that talked about magic feeling or wanting magic to feel like it costs something, that there's a cost to magic? Or is that a different conversation that you and I
That
were
was a different
having?
conversation. Yeah.
Because I was wondering, how would you guys feel Ethan, if there was a moment where you wanted to really do a spell that you don't have,
Oh,
what about burning threat? So you're sacrificing a bit of you to manifest something that you normally can't do.
that would be cool because
that's a good idea.
I like that because that's really the only downside of being a mage, right? Is that like you don't really have armor, so if they hit you and you lose 2 threat, then that's 2 of your dice, right? So you're kind of like that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I like that.
Okay. Yeah. So you'd burn threat to manifest a new power tag for that action.
It's kind of like exceeding your magical abilities, but also kind of like
I like that.
them, you know.
Yeah. No, I do. I like that. That's actually really good. Shit.
I don't know if you covered this. How is threat recovered?
Yeah, you can use magic healers kits. There's a healing tag. You can take rests, things like that. So it's kind of standardish in the game scene. I should pull the document back up. I literally just closed this on accident. I am an idiot.
I also really like the mechanic of like shedding armor. Like your armor gets degraded if you want to like have it glance off or take some damage. I really like that mechanic.
Yeah, Rob, you had a reaction to that too when I said that's how it worked. I think you also were like, "Oh,
yeah." No, I do like that. Yeah, I like it because it gives when the player can mitigate, resources to mitigate like stuff. Yeah.
Kind of like sacrificing the canine in TFR.
That is a true statement. Always be one of the greatest stories for me running Task Force Raven. I told these guys I ran Task Force Raven at a convention, and one of the roles is a canine handler, and one of the girls had sat down to play, and she was just like, before we get started, I just, I don't want to see any, don't hurt animals. And I'm like, look, I don't do that. I said, but then she chose a canine handler. So she has a Belgian Malinois who's a trained dog. The dog's trained combatant. And we were doing this thing, and there's this moment where her character was about to just get eviscerated, and she's sitting at the table and she's staring at me, and I could tell she was just because the canine has its own like special ability, and one of those abilities is the canine, if it can get to you within a movement phase, it will take damage for you. Mm-hmm. And she realized what was happening. It was her character, the dog, and she was just like, the dog takes the damage.
That's pretty funny.
I was like, did you killed the dog? I didn't do anything. We all made choices today, and I did not hurt the dog.
That's great.
My ultimate fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, when you have someone that invested in the character and what's going on in the game, and she just realized like it's her, the dog, and she made a hard decision.
Yeah.
Like, man. Healing physical injuries, yeah, it's just but it's you really, why am I going page down? Yeah, you can use magic, you can use someone can roll a healing roll, because threat is it's very ubiquitous, I know it needs to have a limit on it. I think maybe like you use a healer's kit, and you're not gonna be able to, you can't heal more threat than the healer's kit value is allowed. Might make sense. And so if you got a 1 value, I think that is the smart way to go about it. That way you're not just, oh, well, every combat I'm just going to have someone roll healing on me and heal everything up. That is a good, any issues with that or?
Oh, I think that's good. I think that could even maybe apply to magic in a certain sense, because I was thinking like, I don't want to like limit it or have like, I know you're not trying to have like MP magic points or whatever, but maybe I'm thinking like long term, if someone like, I'm trying to think of some way to rein someone in from just like casting spells like constantly, or like a long term, like a overtime effect. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how that would necessarily be constricted, but I don't know.
Well, part of that is like me personally as a GM, and I can put this in there. I would use a critical failure to burn your threat.
Okay. So that's up to the okay.
Yeah, that's what I would do. I would be like, oh, there's a magical backlash, and
Gotcha,
now
gotcha.
we're gonna, and every one counts as a success against your threat, for instance. And they're like, okay, cool. So you had 4 ones on that 5 die roll. Awesome. That's 4 threat burned. You're like, well, my mage is melted.
Yeah, exactly. Smoking boots on the ground.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, magic backlash, and I'll get I need to get the healing probably a little more clarified in the. Well, we're gonna launch this tonight, and I think I need to hold off on one more day. That'd be the surprise at the end of this. It'd be like, hey, it's available now. Now that you guys have all seen it, people have seen it work. I can't think of any more questions. There's quite a bit to it. Not quite a bit. It sounds weird. Like the full document right now is like 96 pages, so it's not like it's like a tiny, boutique game of like, a leaflet folded over and stuff. But it's not because there's a lot of rules. I mean, you guys literally have the rules on one page. It's just, I think a lot of it was feedback from some games we play where it's just like, oh, well, I don't know what I can do. I don't know what the vibes are. I don't know what this can do. I don't know how my character was born. So there's the whole life path thing that you can roll on, and it's like, what culture are we born into, and all the things that happen with significant events, things like that. And then what else have I done with it? Cultures. I've got a bestiary against my better wishes, because I know people are going to ask, like, well, I don't know what a threat goblin should be. I'm like, man, it'd be any threat you want, man. It can be the toughest goblin in the universe. Make that bitch threat 5 goblin. But you got to be a good GM and describe
Comes
it.
out wearing the Bane mask,
right? Yeah. You fell into the underworld. I was born into it. But we've got like alternate species and stuff, so it's like if you want to play Beyond Humans, the advancement chart. What else?
No. I notice I have 2 coin. Is there like?
Yeah.
Is there like an equipment or something, or a cost?
Yeah, that's how you buy your gear. Like basically there's not really a list of armor. Like armor, it goes from 1, 2, and 3, and the load is the number, the uses is the number, and the number of protective dice it rolls to negate incoming successes is also the number. And then the cost is also the number. So it's just like, your scale mail is a 3 all the way around for all those things. And then like weapons, I didn't add initially a weapons chart, because it's just like, look, there's small weapons that are going to be a 1, there's big weapons, medium weapons at a 2, and big weapons at a 3. And it's like they're 2-handed, 1-handed, and things like that. And I have some tags for the weapons that might help people out, but I know like a weapons chart is going to look weird because it won't have anything in there other than dagger, sword, like a list of things you could possibly buy in a setting. But yeah, I think I rely on, maybe I could couple it to the tags somehow for folks, to be fair. But yeah, that's sort of how the money works. Trying to think of what else.
Mind if I ask one last question to you guys?
No,
Rob and Ethan? One of the things that Scott and I go back and forth on a little bit is around the load that is placed on the player. Because as you saw, Scott asked a lot of times, what does that look like? What does that look like? What does that look like? How did it feel for you to have to come up with some narration on the spot? And was that easy? Was that hard? Was it something you just had to get used to? Because I know that you both are imaginative people. I've played with you both before.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of times it's very easy for me to fall into the habit of, I swing my sword, I hit, or more likely I miss.
Yeah.
But how did that feel for you, and any feedback in that realm for us? Are we putting too much on the player? That sort of thing. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Well, I personally, let me think. Okay. It's not something, it was something that would take a little getting used to. It's not something outside my realm. I think this game in general will require maybe a good GM, or like, it requires a lot of imagination on both sides. You know what I'm saying? The GM and the players. I think, yeah, sometimes it like with how, somewhat loosely defined things are at times. It just takes some getting used to, I think. Because at a certain point I'm like, I don't know like what I am actually able to do. Like, you know what I mean? It started making more sense once we actually played it. Like once we actually like were getting into it and utilizing the mechanics, I kind of found the flow. But sometimes sometimes it is kind of gray and you kind of just, but I think that's also a good thing too, like to use your imagination muscle. This isn't like a setting. I think sometimes people hop on like a D&D thing. I'm guilty of it too, of being like sidetracked with other stuff, you know what I mean? Or maybe you're like on your phone while someone else is kind of going. I think this is one that kind of you're gonna have to be like here to play, you know what I mean?
I didn't think about that.
So I think it's a good thing, yeah, but I don't know. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, I agree. For me, and like, I mean, to me, like everyone, I don't know, maybe kids nowadays with video games and everything's kind of right there. Maybe they don't exercise imagination as much, but I grew up like with an old like wagon in my backyard, right? You know what I mean? And I'm making up, oh, there's like we're on the ship and stuff. So I feel like everyone
Yeah.
I think has that capacity, whether they've
Yeah.
delved into or not, but also because the character sheets are so basic, I think it actually helps that. Like, with a D&D sheet, oftentimes the players are like, oh, what spell do I have? Or they're like, how can I optimize my, +10 to my crossbow shoot, whatever. Like they want to, so I find like the simplicity makes it more of the, and like you were saying, Ethan, like yeah, I'm not like looking around in combat. Or Tom's gonna take his have his 5-7 wolves attack, so I can like maybe go check the, check the weather forecast. Like I don't know what's gonna happen, right? And because like for example, Rune said, oh, I'm gonna empower you. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm empowered now, so I had to pay attention. So it's me. So I think, I don't know, for maybe new players, it might be a little bit, depending on how comfortable they are, it might be a little bit more of a thing to kind of get into more. But I think the system can support that because it doesn't give a lot of people aren't looking at like, a list of spells to see which spell they're going to use, right?
Yeah, I think it like, okay, so you think of like a normal just D&D Dungeons and Dragons system. I think sometimes like people like new players, not that I'm like super experienced or anything, but I feel like I could see new players relying on the mechanics, you know what I'm saying? Like is kind of like a crutch to get them through because it's, using your imagination is kind of like putting yourself out there. I guess it's weird to say, but it's kind of like vulnerable to be imaginative. And so like you can easily just be like, oh, well, how much movement do I have? And like, well, I know my exact limitations. Whereas this would be like I feel like it's probably a healthier for your imagination because it forces you to make those jumps and like create stuff. Like, I don't know.
And I guess I have one last question, and I swear I'll shut up. But how would you guys feel about GMing the system?
Ooh,
Ethan, I don't know that you've GM'd any games yet for any of the systems, but Rob, I think you may have because I know you used to play Savage Worlds as well. If you still don't, or if you don't anymore, but I know you used to. But how would you guys feel trying to run the system? Do you feel like it's something you would want to try, or would be intimidated to try because of the things we've talked about?
I feel bad going first all the time. What do I think, Ethan?
Scott's like, I know where Ethan gets it.
I think this is actually probably easier and more encouraging to GM because there's not like you have to. Like that's probably the biggest thing that's held me back is all the extra work you have to actually put in and like learn the rules and all that shit. Like there's been times I have been motivated and like tried to like start like creating my own little campaign. I'm just like, I just have to sit here with this book for 5 hours. I'm just like, I'm gonna go do something else. So I feel like this would be, like I said, it's very plug and play. So if you have an idea, like I already have some old notes I could probably just pull up and probably just run a game, honestly. Even without the rule book, like just playing with y'all, I could probably, I don't know all the rules and whatnot, but I could probably get a team through. It's so like bare like.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I think it'd be interesting to run. I'm just thinking. I don't. That's like Scott, you're saying like, oh, people want to bestiary and stuff, and I think that's part of it. Is like, it's like, there's a I don't know if it's a philosophy, but some people are like, hey, I just like, the situation, and it runs out of how it is. Other people are like, oh no, there's like dials. I can adjust the monster hit points. I can adjust it, based on. And some people are against it. Other people think that it's fine. So I don't know if the system, I guess it could go either way, right? But I guess like to me, the system would be, how much do you like that giant creature we fought? Is it it's got 5 threat, and if it kills everyone, it kills everyone, or is it like, oh well, they're getting wiped, so I'm going to lower the threat to 3? Like that's the thing I would wonder about, like what the philosophy of the system would be towards that.
Yeah, I don't have anything in there because for me, I'm so old school about things. I'm like, you guys can choose to run away at any time. You're not,
right.
There's no one holding you prisoner in the fight. Things like that. So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know.
That'd be my main thing. Yeah, the main thing is just not like I'm running a Savage Rifts game right now, and it's like I don't know what the fuck. I'm like, oh, I'm making up some stuff, and they're trying to hit stuff, and they can't hit it. I'm like, oh shit, this might be a little too hard for them, right? They're not really like knowledgeable, like mechanically knowledge players, right? It's just they don't know.
Sure.
So this system, I think also because of the free form, it would be helpful to have a good social contract, like right, oh, I'm going to cast my spell. I got 3 successes. Oh, I disintegrate the thing. It just blows up. It's disintegrated, right?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. And it's a hard conversation because I wrote it in there, but it's like you can only. It's just like there's a whole blank page that was like, stick to the narration, stick to your vibes, and something else. But yeah, it's just like for that reason of like, yeah, you can't just be like, well, I just, I open a hole up underneath everybody and I collapse everything inside of it. Like, come on. Come on, man.
So Scott, I think our first supplement needs to be how to run it solo.
I don't. No, I don't understand solo gaming. That's a podcast episode. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. Yeah. Oh, these are a lot of really good notes. These are some really, really, really good notes, actually. Yeah, like super handy. Like you guys changed the face of how the game is structured in quite a few spots, actually.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you guys very much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was fun.
Yeah, I super appreciate it, and yeah, you guys mull it around, and this is something we want to try to do, and we don't have to film every little thing, at least not live on the air. We could do small snippets in here and there, but I think it would be helpful for us to be able to for the products and stuff. But yeah, like I wouldn't mind running this as a like I said, a macro campaign of 5 or 6 sessions, maybe do a little bit longer form, tie together adventures and see what happens, and let it play out socially, as well as combat and magic and exploration for the things. But if something you guys are interested in, let us know. I mean, we all chat except for Ethan.
Yeah.
You let me know.
Yeah,
we'll let you know.
Don't take it personal, Scott. He ignores me too.
That's fine. Yeah, but the offer is there. It's 100% there. Yeah. It's beneficial to, and I do say this game does. It really does demand your imagination. You guys have hit on that a couple of times, and I've tried to explain it to people, and they're just like, I could. And so let me ask this one last question, then we're gonna go. The comment I had that really irritated me was, literally every role-playing game acts just like this. And my response was, I wholeheartedly disagree that every game does what this game does. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I may be myopic, but I've run a lot of games and I've never played a game or run a game that allowed me to give players this much freedom of using their successes and their roles to benefit them so much. I don't know. What do you? Maybe I could be wrong actually.
No, I don't think you're wrong. I agree. Like I said, like this is one that you can't be on your phone on. Like I've never played a game where I was like scared to just like pick up, and maybe because I'm on camera too, so I'm like, oh, but also like I feel like if I did, I would be lost. And so like personally, I'm someone who tries to grow my imagination and like stuff like that. So to me, this is cool. It's good for my brain. Like, so I can't really, other role-playing games also require imagination in different ways, but like being more mechanic focused, stuff like that will like slow your game down a lot. And so there's a lot less of just like constantly like, trying to keep it interesting. And you don't want to just, when you're casting a spell and describing what's happening here, you don't want everyone to be the same. You don't want to just like, it forces you to kind of like actually think. And like when he was like, the shield bash thing, like how, like he was like, I kind of like did it overzealously. I like kind of threw myself off balance. I was like, that's cool. I wouldn't have like, it forces you to think about stuff like that. And I think that's cool. Like, cause other games don't. Sometimes like the GM will like say like what will happen, or maybe, you can improv it too. But like, I think it forces a lot more of that organically. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah, I think like sometimes like in the Killing Blow, the GM, like, you trade fights to hit 5 or 10 swings back and forth, and then, oh, how do you kill him? But this was like, no, every single attack, like you're like, how did you do that? Or when I said, how far away are we? You're like, how far would you stop? I was like, oh, I get to decide. Okay, And I had to pause for a moment because I was like, oh, how far would But yeah, to me, other games, and I definitely am a fan of mechanical crunch games. Like I play them like D&D and Savage Worlds, but I also feel like it can kind of like lock into a certain like mold of like I'm and this to me it kind of free forms it, right? It'd be fun just like I felt the combat, because I was reading some of your comment. We were talking about the game in the Discord, and I was like, oh, about this whole narrative thing, and I didn't really grok it until we started playing. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, this isn't just like, I just felt like I had this much more freedom to really describe. And had the combat continued or we continued on, I was like thinking that'd be kind of fun, to really like.
Okay.
And that's like when I first started, like, I guess I've played with my dad since I was a kid. But like once I was kind of more of a grown person and playing role-playing games, like that's kind of how I like to imagine stuff anyways. Like I was like always super excited to be like, oh, I want to cut his arm off and stuff like that. And so I feel like in this, like, and then the DM's like, or the GM or whatever is like, no, you don't cut his arm off. You just like deal 6 points of damage. And you're like, oh, okay. Well, I wanted to cut his arm off.
Yeah, right.
I feel like in this system, if you roll high enough, that can actually make sense. Or like a lot more stuff like that of being like, oh, I'm going to jump off the wall and like punch him in the face. Like, that's kind of like where I started at.
Yeah.
And then sometimes the rules will be like, okay, well, I have to, like, it forces you to like think about it differently. Whereas this was like encourages that kind of excitement,
Yeah. And it's not just the players that it demands a lot of too, because it really demands GMs let go. Because there are a lot of GMs who'd be like, no, you only rolled one success, you're not cutting his arm off. And it just depends on the situation.
Yeah.
You'd be like, okay, cool, but what harm is like fingers or a hand?
Mm-hmm.
Or the player narrate like, oh, I'm going for that arm, I'm taking that arm off. Like, hey, last moment arm comes up, but you remove the thumb and the forefinger. That grip on that sword loosens up. Things like that to represent that loss of threat as you're dealing that damage. But it does ask GM. It demands GM do the same, just as much for the players. But yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. You can narrate. So you could have those successes stack up and do a lot of that. I use a success to run up the wall, backflip off behind, use my backstab ability, burn successes on that to be able to, get a blow. And there's a lot of ways you can do this of like, instead of just like, oh, I sneak up behind him and I just stab him. Like, okay, no, I'm going to go, balls out and do stupid things. It makes, I think it makes like those crazy moments much more doable, you know, without, like you said, it's just, you know, one hit point at a time until you're all done. But yeah. All right. That is literally all. I've kept you guys far longer than I promised. I feel I'm bad. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good.
No problem.
Yeah, my bad.
I do have to walk this dog, so I'm gonna get out of here. But
All right. Thank you
fun.
again, fellas.
Thanks for inviting
guys.
me.
No, thank you
guys.
again.
Thanks
We'll
for
do
playing.
this. We'll do this. Yeah, we'll make this a little bit longer form, hopefully. Fingers
Awesome.
crossed.
Yeah.
Okay.
And thanks, Rob. Really appreciate it. It was
thanks,
good
Rob.
playing
no,
with you
thanks
again.
for having me.
Rob, we
It was
love you
fun.
as a player. I meant what I said. Rob was the very first
Thank
person
you.
we thought
I
of.
was
We
so
were like-
honored that you said that. It's like, I like playing our games together, and I just was like,
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're a great player. You're a good person to have, and it's fun just chatting with you in general. But as a player, you are a very rare breed.
thank you. Thanks.
All right, guys, and that's
All right,
it
guys.
for us.
Yep.
Bye.
I'm out.
Bye.
Talk to y'all later.
Ended. All right. And then you wanted to stay on, you said?